Hi, this is Jenny Black here with another video for our class, and this one here is studying shapes within an image. And so we need to kind of look at images before we start coloring so that we know how we want them to look in our end result. So here I have a couple little basic images. Here I have some cylinder shapes. Cylinder shapes are very plain and boring until you actually color them. Then they become lifelike if you put the shading and highlighting in the right place. We also have shapes like spheres. A sphere is only a circle unless you highlight it properly to become a sphere. And then lastly, we have our cone shape. Our cone shape looks like a triangle until we actually shade it properly to become a cone shape. So let's take a look at a couple images to kind of see where these pieces come into play. So here we have obviously our little kitty cat, and we have several shapes within this image. The hat can either be a cone or a cylinder shape, however you see it for yourself. I see it kind of as a cylinder, but yet I kind of have a cone shape in my head also. So here is a cylinder. His little head is actually a sphere shape. If I colored his face all flat in one color, it would just be a flat circle and wouldn't have any life to it. But I put my highlight on the part that's closest to the front. My light source for beginning classes is always straight on. It's exactly straight front forward onto my image. That's the easiest for me to remember, and my students always seem to prefer that over other choices that we've tried. So front center highlight. Here we have a cone or cylinder, like I said. We have a sphere instead of a circle. His little paws are kind of little spheres also. They're not really just circles. They actually have some dimension and shape, like my little hand. It's a paw. So it has a little bit of dimension to it, and if I want to show that dimension, I have to put my highlight here. Can you see how there's more highlight here? And it gets darker as it goes away from the highlight. It gets darker, and that's going to build volume. It's the same thing I did here. Let's take a look at a couple others. Here's a little kitty cat that I did. Again, it's a circle until we make it a sphere by putting the highlight in the center. Let's look at the little basket here. I'm going to come in just a little bit closer. There's our basket. So the basket here is actually highlighted as a cylinder shape. I put the shading furthest away from the light, and I worked my way towards the center with my lightest color in the center, which built volume in a cylinder shape. Over here on her little skirt, this was actually just a flat skirt, but I added a little bit of shading right here in the middle, and I made two cylinders instead of just one big one. I did the same thing down here on the bottom of her skirt. I added some little lines in here, and then I shaded working towards my highlight. And so that gave it a little bit of shape instead of just a flat plain dress. So there's that one. Here the same thing in this little girl's dress. These little ruffles or folds in her dress are all cylinder shapes. The stem on the mushroom is a cylinder shape. Her legs are cylinder shapes. The mushroom is a dome or a cylinder shape. I chose to use the cylinder shape, focusing on this being the center and this further away. If I was looking straight down onto the mushroom, I would use it more as a sphere or a dome shape. Here's her little arm. It's actually a cylinder shape. Can you see all the different shapes? Here on her hair, it's actually a sphere, but what I did is I made it into, I just highlighted the hair. We're going to do hair in a separate class. It's a whole different game. And so there she is. Here's a little doggy. You can see the shapes. The hair is kind of a cylinder shape or sphere. It's kind of a sphere because it's rounded. His little paws. Here's a vase. You can obviously see that that's a cylinder shape. How about some strawberries? Strawberries, you can either color them as a cylinder or as a sphere. They're kind of both, and so you kind of have to use your own judgment on how you want to do that, or a combination of both. And this little girl, she's really cute. What I did with her is I also did the same exact techniques on her. Look at the basket. I put the shading on the back side, and I worked towards my highlight on the front. On her face, I put the shading on the outside of her face and I worked towards my highlight in the very center. Same with her dress. I put the highlight in the center, her boots, the highlight in the center, etc. Here's one more that I'm going to take a peek at. This one here is a little bear. It's a digital image. I thought it was kind of cute. You can see that these little checkers on the shorts, they were a little bit of a pain because I colored each and every one of them and then I had to shade them. And so I just shaded them with a little bit of gray. It was much easier than using 3 shades of the red and 3 shades of green. So I just added a little bit of gray, but you can see how it's a cylinder shape on this leg. This leg is a completely separate, different cylinder. His arms are each cylinders. His head is a sphere shape. Can you see the little shapes within him? He's pretty cute. I like him. I made him for my boyfriend's birthday. Thought he was kind of cute. So anyways, let's take a look at it and we'll understand a little bit more on how we build dimension on those individual images. So now we've learned how to recognize how the shapes are within an image, and now we're going to learn how to shade them. What I like to do is I start off with making everything into hills and valleys. If you think of looking at a landscape or nature, the hills usually get more highlight than the valleys, and that's what I use in my coloring. So you can see here I have 3 cylinders that I put nice and tight together, and I put my valleys are the furthest away, so that's where I put my darkest color. I put it on both sides. I put my dark color, you can see that, and then I worked my way towards the center of each or to the top of the hill. So I always work my way from the valley to the hill, from dark to light, and you can see how they have dimension and they've kind of built little mountains here. So let's take a look at this sphere shape. Basically it was just a circle until I colored it, but I looked and I said, okay, front and center highlight again. Remember, it's going straight down on my paper. Well, that's kind of silly, you can't see my hand doing that, but I put my highlight in the center and I got darker as I got further away from my light source. This one over here didn't work so great because I tried to put the dark in the center and I lightened it towards the outside. Sometimes you can get this to look like the inside of a cone. That didn't work so great on mine. It's not really what I was trying for, but sometimes you can get that. Here I was just trying to show you that it's the opposite and it doesn't work very well for building a sphere shape. It just kind of makes it look like a hole. So you want to put your shading on the outside, work towards your highlight on the inside. Same thing with our cone. Our cone shape is only a triangle unless we properly highlight it. But the trick about a cone is that it gets wider at the bottom. Down here is wider than it is up here, but it's still got that cylinder shape to it, so it's still rounded. What I do is I have more dark down here and I kind of have to come closer up here. So you have to keep your shading consistent with the shape of the image. So here I might have shading out to here, but up here I might only have this much shading. And so you kind of have to keep it consistent. I'm going to do a sample so you'll be able to see that. Here is the sample actually of the cone. It just happened to be the next page, so I'm going to show it to you now. I added my lightest color, and then I added in my shading. I added in my second color, and then I pulled it together with the lightest color in the center. Can you see how I kept that shading consistent with the shape? I stayed wider and I kept getting closer until I was in the very center. The same here, the light, then I added my medium, I added my dark color, and I blended it all together. And so that is my cone shape. So we're actually going to now go to the next video and we're actually going to apply this technique to the actual images instead of just spending our time coloring basic shapes. So I'll see you in the next video. Have a great day.